My name is Sadie, and I'm 32. I sat in a packed boardroom, the air thick with tension, as the CEO called an unannounced meeting. 50 pairs of eyes pinned me down their weight like a tightening vice. I'd poured 7 years into this company building their flagship software from a blank screen to a market leader, my life woven into its code. Harper, my mentee, sat across, clutching a folder stamped with my project's logo. Her gaze fixed downward, fingers trembling. I'd trained her, shared my algorithms, stayed late to guide her. The CEO's lips curled into a smirk, his eyes cold. "We have an announcement," he said, his voice slicing the silence. My heart thudded a warning bell. Something was wrong, and I was its target. Have you ever felt your world shift, like everything you built could vanish in a moment? Tell me where you're watching from, like if you faced that fear and subscribed to hear how it all unraveled. The CEO's words cut like glass. "Sadie, we're restructuring. Your role is terminated, effective immediately." My breath stopped the room tilting. 50 faces turned, some shocked, others smug, a few pretending to study their notes. I'd coded their software through sleepless nights, missed my sister's engagement party, worked through migraines. My hands trembled as I took the letter he slid across the table, its paper crisp, the ink stark. I skimmed it. Policy violation dated 10 days ago, no specifics. What violation? I'd never been warned. Harper's head stayed low, her knuckles white around that folder, its edges crumpling under her grip. I'd spent hours teaching her, debugging her errors, praising her growth. Her silence was a betrayal sharper than the letter. Gregory, a senior manager with a perpetual scowl, leaned back muttering, "Thought she was indispensable." Snickers followed, slicing through the quiet. My throat tightened, words trapped. I stood my chair, screeching, the sound echoing in the tense air. The CEO extended his hand. "Your badge, Sadie." I fumbled with the lanyard, its cord catching on my necklace, the plastic warm from my skin. I wanted to demand answers, to shout, but their stares silenced me. I handed it over my fingers, brushing his cold ones. Harper's eyes flicked up, then away, her face guilty. My mind raced, flashing to a late-night meeting where she'd asked about my admin keys. Her tone too eager, her pen scribbling. Had she planned this? The room felt like a cage, the air heavy with judgment. I stepped toward the glass doors, my heels loud on the hardwood, each click a pulse of humiliation. Gregory's voice trailed me low and mocking. "Don't take it personally, Sadie." My chest burned, but I kept moving, the doors my only escape. I needed to understand, to unravel how my life's work had been stolen in front of everyone. I pushed through the glass doors, the lobby's cool air hitting like a slap. My reflection flickered in the mirrored walls. My face, pale, eyes wide. A stranger staring back. I'd given this company 7 years, missed birthdays, coded through fevers, poured my soul into their software. Now my badge was gone, dropped into the CEO's drawer like trash. Harper's silence echoed loudest. I'd stayed late to fix her bugs, brought her coffee during crunch times, even lent her my laptop when hers crashed. Her betrayal was a weight I couldn't shake. I stepped into the elevator, the doors closing with a soft hiss, sealing me in with my thoughts. Had I been blind? 3 weeks ago, Harper had lingered after a meeting, asking about server protocols. Her voice casual, but her eyes sharp. I'd smiled, proud of her curiosity, and explained the basics. Foolish. The elevator opened to the parking garage, dim and damp, my car a lone shadow under a flickering bulb. I slid inside, the leather seats, familiar creak, no comfort. My phone stayed silent. No texts, no apologies, just a blank screen mocking my isolation. I pulled out my notebook, its pages worn from years of code sketches. A diagram caught my eye, a failsafe I'd built to tie the system to my credentials. Only I knew its trigger. My pulse quickened. Had Harper tried to bypass it? I started the car, the engine's rumble a faint anchor. As I pulled out, the company's glass tower loomed in my rear view, its shine a lie. I thought of my dad, who taught me to code in our cluttered garage, his voice steady. "Build something they can't steal, Sadie." I'd tried, and they'd taken it anyway. My phone buzzed, a text from Tessa, a coworker who'd left last year. Heard what happened. Call me. My thumb hovered. Tessa saw through office games, but her silence until now stung. I drove on the city, blurring Harper's guilty face burned into my mind. This wasn't just a firing, it was a theft, and I needed to know how deep it ran. My apartment was a tomb, the silence amplifying every thought. I dropped my bag, the notebook tumbling onto the couch, its pages splayed like an accusation. Tessa's text glowed on my phone, but I wasn't ready for her voice. I paced my socks, catching on the hardwood's rough patches, my mind stuck on the boardroom's cruelty. 7 years reduced to a vague letter. I sank onto the couch, my eyes catching a photo of Dad and me from a coding camp, his arm around my 12-year-old self, his smile wide. "You're a force, Sadie," he'd said, but he'd warned trust sparingly. I hadn't listened. Harper's betrayal cut deepest. I'd spent countless nights teaching her, celebrating her first build covering for her missed deadlines. Now her silence screamed complicity. I opened my laptop, hands unsteady, and logged into an old work email I'd forgotten to delete. A message from Harper, dated a month ago, waited. "Sadie, need your admin keys for a backup. Urgent." I'd been buried in deadlines, told her to wait. Had she gone around me? I checked X, searching the company's name. A post glowed, "Revolutionary software unveiled, my software. My algorithms." My chest burned. I slammed the laptop shut, tears hot on my cheeks. The doorbell buzzed sharp and unwelcome. It was Mom, her coat damp from a light rain, her eyes scanning my cluttered living room. She hugged me, her warmth steady. "Tessa called," she said, pulling back. "I'm so sorry." I stiffened. Everyone knew before I could speak. "I'm fine," I lied, my voice thin. She sat patting the couch. "Tell me." I didn't want to, but it poured out, the letter's vagueness, Harper's avoidance, Gregory's cruelty. Mom's face tightened, her fingers twisting her scarf. "Your dad saw this kind of thing," she said. "Loyalty's just a word to some." I nodded, my throat tight. I glanced at the notebook, the failsafe nagging at me. A spark flared. This wasn't random. I stood, my voice low. "I'm going to find out what happened." Mom's eyes widened. "Careful, Sadie." But caution was gone. An email pinged from HR, a cold note about final paperwork with a photo of my desk stripped bare. Dad's photo was missing. My heart sank. They'd erased me piece by piece. I stared at the HR email, the empty desk photo, a fresh wound. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away, pacing my socks, snagging on the floor's imperfections. "They took his picture," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Dad's photo. My anchor to him gone. I opened my laptop, fingers trembling, and scoured X for more company posts. A video surfaced, Harper at a team huddle presenting my code as hers, her voice confident, her smile polished. Comments praised her genius. My vision blurred, tears spilling. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath ragged. Mom stood, her voice gentle. "Sadie, don't let this consume you." But it was consuming me. I grabbed my phone and called Tessa, my hands shaking. She answered, her tone heavy. "I'm sorry, Sadie. Harper's got your job now." My chest tightened. "Did you know this was coming?" A long pause. "Rumors," she said. "I didn't think they'd do it." My heart sank. Even Tessa had known and stayed quiet. "What rumors?" I pressed. She sighed. "They said you were too controlling, kept the project locked down." Gregory pushed it. I laughed, bitter. Gregory, who'd undermined me in every meeting, calling my work overcomplicated. I hung up my thoughts, a storm. I turned to Mom. "They all knew, didn't they?" Her silence answered, her eyes heavy with concern. I sank to the floor, the couch's edge digging into my back. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in. I remembered a late-night session with Harper. Her asking about my encryption layers, her notebook filled with my answers. I'd thought she was learning. Now I saw her calculation, Gregory's whispers, the CEO's approval. They'd planned this to steal my work and bury me. My phone pinged a post from Jill, a colleague I'd trusted. "Harper's killing it. Congrats." My throat burned. Jill, who'd shared my lunches, now cheering my replacement. I wanted to confront them, but my body felt heavy. Mom knelt beside me, her voice soft. "You're enough, Sadie." But I wasn't sure. They'd taken my code, my desk, my dad's memory. Another email arrived from Gregory. "Sadie, clear your items by tomorrow. We've moved on." The words seared, final and cruel. I stared at the screen, my pulse a drumbeat. They thought they'd won, but a fire sparked, fierce and growing. This wasn't over. My apartment was dark, Mom asleep on the couch, her soft breathing the only sound. Gregory's email glowed on my phone, a taunt I couldn't ignore. I opened my old work laptop, one I'd never returned, and dove into the product's source code. My fingers flew, chasing a hunch. Then I found a failsafe I'd coded years ago, tying the system to my admin credentials. If my access was cut, it would crash in 9 minutes. My breath caught. They didn't know. Harper couldn't know. I checked the server logs, my heart racing. She'd used my code untouched for today's investor demo, streamed live to thousands. The idea hit. I could let it fail, walk in and watch them unravel. Mom stirred, murmuring, "Sadie." I stayed silent, eyes locked on the screen. I thought of Mom's story, how she'd been pushed out of her job and stayed quiet. I wouldn't. I grabbed my jacket, slipping out. The drive to the company was a blur, streetlights streaking past. I parked across the street, the building's glow a challenge. My phone buzzed. Tessa. "Demos live. Huge deal." I ignored it, stepping into the cool night. Carl, the security guard, stood at the door. I'd always tipped him at holidays. "Sadie," he said, startled. "You shouldn't be here." I leaned close, my voice steady. "Carl, I need this." He paused, then stepped aside, his eyes kind. I slipped into the lobby, the demo's hum echoing from the auditorium. I crept to a side door, peering in. Harper stood on stage, her voice confident, presenting my work as hers. The CEO clapped, his grin wide. Investors nodded, impressed by my interface. My name was gone. The screen flickered, a glitch only I noticed. I checked my watch, 7 minutes. My stomach knotted, thrill mixing with fear. I could log in remotely, save them, or I could let it burn. Harper's voice faltered as the glitch grew, pixels fracturing. The CEO's grin tightened. I stood in the shadows, my heart pounding. This was my moment, but doubt crept in. What if this broke me too? The auditorium's buzz turned sharp, the screen's flicker now a jagged scar across my interface. Harper's voice broke her clicker, useless. The CEO stepped up, his laugh forced. "Minor issue, folks." Investors murmured, shifting uncomfortably. I stood in the doorway, my watch ticking 5 minutes. My failsafe was unraveling them, but my chest ached, torn between vengeance and fear. Then the screen flashed my signature, created by Sadie, 2020. Gasps rippled through. Harper's face paled, her eyes darting to the CEO. He scanned the room, spotting me. "You," he hissed loud enough for the front row to hear. Heads turned. Ms. Larson, the lead investor, stood, her voice sharp. "What's happening?" Harper stammered. "It's just..." But the screen locked my name in bold. Whispers erupted. Gregory pushed through, his face red. "She's sabotaging us," he shouted, pointing at me. Investors stared, some shocked, others curious. I wanted to shout the truth, but my throat seized. The CEO stormed toward me, his voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this." Carl hovered nearby, unsure. My legs felt weak, their stares crushing me. This was worse than the boardroom. My truth was bare, but they saw me as the villain. Harper sank into a chair, sobbing. I used her code. I didn't know about the lock. The investors' murmurs turned accusing. Ms. Larson's gaze locked on me, cold and judging. My failsafe had worked, but it wasn't victory. It was exposure, raw and painful. My watch beeped 1 minute. The system would die, and with it my chance to explain. I stood, heart shattered, suffocating under their judgment. The auditorium's chaos faded as I backed away, the CEO's threat ringing. My watch beeped, the system was down. Investors shouted, Harper sobbed my name glowing on the frozen screen. I slipped out Carl's nod, a small comfort. In the lobby, I leaned against a wall, my breaths shallow. They'd stolen my work, my pride, but I wasn't done. I texted Ms. Larson, my hands steady despite the storm inside. Meet me. I can fix this, but we talk terms. She replied, conference room 5 minutes. My pulse raced, but this was my chance. I walked to the room, the building's hum distant. Ms. Larson sat waiting, her eyes sharp. Talk, she said. I took a breath, my voice firm. The product's mine. I built a failsafe to protect it. Reinstate me, fire Harper, and I'll restore it. She studied me. If we refuse, I held her gaze. It stays offline. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. I'd never bargained like this, but it felt right. I thought of Mom selling her car to fund my fight, and Tessa ready to testify. I wasn't alone. Ms. Larson nodded. We'll talk. But this is risky. I left my resolve hardening. At home, I called Rachel, a lawyer Tessa vouched for. Her voice was crisp. Send your contract. I dug through old files, finding the agreement. A clause stood out. I owned the code's IP. My heart leapt. This was my edge. I emailed Rachel, my thoughts racing. I wasn't just reacting. I was fighting. Rachel's office smelled of coffee and old books, a contrast to the company's sterile halls. My contract lay open, the IP clause circled in red. This is airtight, she said, her pen tapping. They can't claim your work. Relief washed over me, but fear lingered. I told her everything: Harper's theft, Gregory's smears, the demo's collapse. She took notes, her eyes narrowing. We sue for wrongful termination and IP theft. You ready? I nodded, my stomach tight. This was war. Back home, I opened my laptop, my fingers pausing. I drafted an ex post. My company stole my work and fired me. I'm fighting back. I posted it, my heart pounding. Replies flooded in, strangers sharing their betrayals, calling me brave. Tessa called, her voice urgent. I'll testify. Gregory targeted me too. Her support steadied me. I thought of Mom, her quiet strength, and Dad, who taught me to stand firm. I sketched a plan to rebuild the product my way if they met my terms. Ms. Larson called, her tone sharp. We're considering your terms, but the CEO's threatening a countersuit. I gripped the phone, my voice cold. Let him try. I hung up, a shift settling in me. I wasn't the Sadie who'd frozen in the boardroom. I walked to my window, the city alive below. I wrote enough on a sticky note and pressed it to my laptop. This was about reclaiming myself. My phone woke me buzzing with X notifications. My post had spread, some calling me a hero, others saying I'd gone too far. I sipped cold coffee, each comment a weight. Rachel called. They want to settle. Your lawsuits got them scared. I exhaled relief, mixing with dread. The courthouse loomed, reporters circling, cameras flashing. My name was news now. Inside, Judge Ellis's voice was steady as he read my claims. Tessa sat behind me, her presence solid, but Harper was there, her face pale. Rachel whispered, "She's turning on Gregory." My stomach twisted. Harper's letter slipped under my door, confessed her fear, her pressure to comply. I hadn't responded. In court, I testified, my voice steady, hands clammy, detailing the theft, the lies. The company's lawyer called me erratic. I kept my eyes on the judge. Harper testified, her voice trembling. Gregory forced me to take her code. The room stilled. I looked at her, my heart torn. Judge Ellis called a recess, and I stepped outside, the autumn air biting. Tessa grabbed my arm. You're winning, Sadie. But victory felt empty. Mom texted, proud of you. Come home. I stood on the courthouse steps, the cold seeping through. I was a fighter, but I felt like a ghost. I drove from the courthouse, Tessa's words fading. The city moved on, oblivious. My phone stayed silent. At home, I found a box by my door unmarked. Inside was Dad's photo, its frame scratched. My throat tightened. Someone, maybe Carl, had returned it. I placed it on my shelf, its weight heavy. Rachel emailed Judge Ellis ruled for me. Harper was fired, damages awarded, reinstatement offered under Diane, the new CEO. I stared at the screen, the words distant. I'd won, but my heart felt fragile. I called Mom, her voice warm. "You did it, Sadie." I wanted to feel it, but doubt clung. I poured tea, the steam curling. Tessa's blog post appeared, my story laid bare, naming me her spark. Comments called me a trailblazer. A knock came Jill, eyes swollen. "I didn't know," she said. "I'm sorry I supported Harper." I stood in the doorway, her words heavy. "I hear you," I said, closing the door. I sank onto the couch, tea untouched. I'd reclaimed my work, but the cost, Jill's regret. Harper's letter, Mom's weary voice, was etched deep. I looked at Dad's photo, his eyes calm. I'd fought, but something was still missing. I walked into my new office, the air fresh with paint. My desk held only Dad's photo in a new frame I'd chosen. I traced its edge, the morning quiet. Diane had reshaped the company, clearing Gregory's allies. I was back leading my project, but it felt like a different life. I opened my laptop, finding an email from Lila, my mentee. "Your advice changed how I see this job," she wrote. Her words warmed me. I saw my younger self in her, hungry but fragile. I replied, urging her to trust herself, my words careful. My phone buzzed, but I ignored it, stepping to the window. The city pulsed below, steady. I'd carried so much betrayal, fear of fading. I opened my journal, started after the lawsuit, and wrote, "You are whole." It anchored me. I thought of Mom, her resilience teaching me to find peace in small moments. I closed the journal, my hand resting. I wasn't running anymore. I was here, ready to build again. I left work early, the afternoon sun warm. Mom asked me to meet at a park we hadn't seen since I was young. I found her on a bench, her scarf loose, her eyes on the trees. She patted the seat, and I sat, the wood cool. "You seem calmer," she said. I nodded, the peace fragile. We walked her steps, slow past kids with kites, their laughter bright. We stopped by a pond, its surface mirroring the sky. "You loved this place," Mom said. "Always exploring." I smiled, the memory grounding. I thought of Lila, her fears, and how I'd told her to keep going. I was learning that too. Mom touched my arm. "You don't have to carry it all." Her eyes held years of quiet strength. I wanted to share my journal, my scars. Instead, I skipped a pebble across the water, ripples spreading. Each was a choice to let go, to rebuild. We sat, the park's hum around us. I held her hand, the sun setting gold. I breathed, and it was enough. I started waking early, sitting on my balcony with tea, the dawn quiet. My apartment felt alive with plants I'd bought, their leaves catching light. I wrote in my journal, not about the lawsuit, but small things, my breakfast, a bird's chirp, Lila's laugh at work. These stitched me together. I walked to the office, the city's rhythm calming. My role was about building now, not proving. Lila's bold questions met my patient answers. I saw my past in her, but also my growth, someone who could bend without breaking. One evening, Tessa's letter arrived, tucked in my mailbox. She'd moved, chasing a new job, inspired by my fight. I tucked it into my journal, humbled. Pain had cracked me, but it let light in. I volunteered at a community center, teaching kids to code. Their joy, like a girl's grin at her first bug fix, rekindled my love for this work. I wasn't erasing the past, Harper's actions, Gregory's malice, but choosing what to keep. Strength isn't staying unbroken. It's building from the pieces. Peace isn't winning. It's standing whole. I'm still learning that. What moment broke you, but made you stronger? Share below, and let's hold space for each other. If this touched you, like, subscribe, or share with someone who needs it. Thank you for being here. Here's to healing, growing, starting again.